The time is 5 o'clock, and this is the Planning Commission meeting of March 30th, 2022. Can I get a roll call, please? Sure. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chair Wiggins,
Present.
Vice Chair Preston,
Present.
Commissioner Borders,
Here.
Commissioner Aswine, Commissioner Kilgore,
Present.
Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Perry.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Okay, let's move on to Pledge of Allegiance. Chair Preston, Vice Chair.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the commission at this time and comment on any matter that is relevant to or within the authority of the Planning Commission, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an agenda item. In order for members of the public to participate in the Planning Commission's consideration of an agenda item, the public is strongly encouraged to provide public comment on that agenda item when it's called by the chair. If you are coming up for public comment, please sign in, state your name, and limit comments to 3 minutes. Thanks. Any member of the public want to provide comment at this time? Either way, there's going to be public comment before and at the end. So, okay, come on up.
Okay. My name is Santos Corral. I moved here in 1973 from LA, California, leaving the freeways and asphalt jungles behind. And now I bought a house in Carson City on a dirt road. Yahoo! There were 16,000 people living here then, and now there's 16,000 people in my neighborhood. They put the fire station and the park in 1974 with a big pond. That's where it got its name, Duck Pond. Now they're building 22 condos right across the street from my house. 3 stories high, 600 feet long, concrete, asphalt, and curb and gutter. And to the right of me, they're putting in curb and gutter and asphalt all the way around Duck Park and taking the pond out. And to the left, they're putting in 51 condos, curb and gutter and asphalt till the world looks level. And between all this, they put a freeway in my backyard. The mayor and the board of supervisors are not doing a very good job of public service. I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel like me out there, pissed. If there's nowhere to build, why are we building on top of each other? These are 1-acre parcels out there, and they're okaying 22 parcels per acre. What's wrong with this picture? That's what I got to say.
Thank you. Any other public comment at this time?
Does it matter what the agenda is? We just say what we want to.
So it's preferred that public comment, if there's a specific item in the agenda, talk about it then, just so it's fresh in our minds for that agenda item. But if it's just generally involving the Planning Commission, now's a good time to talk.
Okay. I want to talk about the billboard issue.
Billboards in general, or or specifically this one?
A permit being applied for to extend the lighting situation, I guess you could say, and it was to be heard on tonight whether or not you were going to extend the permit.
Right. So So it's preferred, you can speak about it now, but it's preferred that it's during that agenda item. when
Okay,
it's called.
that was what I
Okay.
didn't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other general public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the minutes, February 23rd, 2022. Any changes from the commission? Edits?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes as presented.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Hearing none, motion passes. Moving on to the meeting items, agendas. We do have one item here, 6D, that we'll just address right now. This item has been asked for a continuance by both staff and the applicant. That was the late material provided here. So would anyone like to make a motion to continue this item?
I motion to continue the item 6D.
Second?
Second.
Can we
Commissioner
have
Kilgore.
clarification?
Sure.
To the April Planning Commission meeting, April 27th,
Sure.
date certain, so we don't have to re-advertise.
Wait a second. Say that again.
We're continuing the item, correct?
Oh,
To
yeah,
date cer-
continuing to the
To
next,
date certain,
to date,
to a date certain
to
of
a
April,
date certain?
April
Okay.
27th,
Sure.
2022, so we don't have to re-advertise.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Reread the motion.
Like to extend for, now I'm thrown
Continue.
out. I'd like to extend, to continue item number 60, LU 20220061 to date certain April 27th, 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Kilgore, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Nope. Motion passes. All right, back to,
Mr. Chair,
yes.
that I believe that item was the one that woman wanted to speak on.
No, it was the billboards.
No,
The billboard?
no, that's the fence.
6E on mine is the billboard.
6D.
6D.
6D was the one we were
D.
just doing.
Turn up my hearing aids. Okay. Sorry.
All right.
I'd like to know if that was my continuance, so I can leave.
Oh, 6, was that the fence with the
Yes.
setback? Yes. Yes, it's the continuance passed.
Thank you.
You're excused. Okay, back to item 6A now. LU-2022-0062 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to allow for the relocation and upgrade of the existing automated weather observation system, equipment, and tower at the Carson City Airport on property zone public regional located at 3420 College Parkway, APN 005-011-05. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, for the record. The subject parcel is approximately 4.7 acres in size and is located on the north side of College Parkway, south of the taxiway on the Carson City Airport property. The parcel is zoned public regional. The airport is proposing the relocation and upgrading of the existing automated weather observation system, equipment, and tower from its current location in the western portion of the subject parcel to approximately 600 feet to the east on the same parcel. The tower will be lattice type, 30 feet in height, and is essentially the same as the existing tower. The ground-mounted equipment will be upgraded, but consistent in appearance with the existing equipment. Per Municipal Code 1804-185, the use may only be established or modified in the public regional zoning district, subject to first obtaining a special use permit. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve a special use permit upon making all 7 findings of fact in the affirmative. Staff has made all 7 findings and is recommending approval, subject to the 4 conditions of approval, which are included in the staff report. We've not received any public comments regarding the project. The airport manager, Corey Jenkins, is here and representing the project, and I'm available for questions. And if you want me to go back through some of those photos once we get this up and running, I can do that as well.
Okay. Were the photos in our packet?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for staff? Seeing none, would the applicant like to come up? If they're here.
Corey's there.
Hello, my name is Corey Jenkins. I'm the airport manager. I'm only coming up to introduce myself. This is my first time participating in a planning commission meeting, so I wanted to make sure I made an appearance and was available. So we're available for any questions.
Okay, one of the questions we usually have is, are you okay with the conditions of approval as outlined in staff's report here?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Corey, why are you moving it?
Say again?
Why are you moving the communications tower? Are you going to build something there?
This is a part of a pretty big project overall. This is to improve the approach to the runway. This is just one of the parts of many parts to accomplish that. The FAA would like to see the weather equipment to be as close to the threshold of the runway as possible, in order to give the pilots the best information possible.
So it's going to be moved on this parcel, just from one part of the parcel to another part? Or is it going to a different part of the airport?
It is moving east. I don't have those exact numbers. Nadine is here from Armstrong Consultants if you have more specific questions about the project.
It's moving from the existing location, which on the slide up there, there's a building and it says future building in this location. That's the approximate location of the existing tower. And it would be moving on the same parcel, approximately 600 feet to the east, where the black dot is.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Any discussion from the commission? Hearing none, it's time for a motion.
Public hearing.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Would the public like to comment on this topic?
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Chair, and too close?
Oh, please sign in also.
Right. I don't want to use my 3 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you. The question is, from that location, moving it east puts it closer to your taxiway. And I go down and I observe a lot of takeoffs and landings. And I'm going, it's quite a challenge of an airport to land in. I got to talk to a woman that her husband and her flew out of Carson quite often. And they had legitimate aircraft. And for the smaller planes, when I'm seeing them down at that end of the taxiway near the College Parkway, I'm concerned when you want to move anything closer to that particular spot. But I understand if that's important to the ability to just, figure the weather out at the time and different considerations, that's great. But the other location's on another piece of property completely. Am I understanding right? And then also, in the future, would it be okay for me to use a laser when I'm not sure? I don't want to have anything uncomfortable for any of the board members, because I'll be lasering at a point if I don't understand something for future reference. Yes or no? Is
I
that-
wouldn't point lasers at people.
No,
but
I
you
wouldn't
can
either. I've had them pointed
certainly
at me, but that's,
try and point at things on a screen. I don't know if that'll work very well,
can I
but
give you an option to see it?
yeah, sure.
No, it's not
And
working.
it's
goes
going to
away.
disappear on the screen, I think,
Okay,
Mr.
so
French.
that would take care of that question.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Now, I've provided some entertainment, it seems, but my intent was not to do so, but to really have a legitimate question. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. French. Any other public comment on this? Seeing none, Heather, would you like to?
So I can answer one of Denny's questions, and that is that it's on the same parcel. So it's moving from the existing location in the western portion of the subject property to the proposed location from this location here to the proposed location in the eastern portion.
My question was. is
That's
that
a
the end of
fence line.
Okay, that's a fence line. Thank you.
The other question with regard to the proximity to the taxiway, I would have to defer to either the airport manager or his consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other comment, questions,
Your motion.
or a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve LU 2022-0062 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
Second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Okay, item 6B, LU-2022-0066 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to allow for the construction of a metal carport at the Carson City Dispatch Center on property zone public community located at 4649 Snyder Avenue, APN 009-166-01. Heather.
Thank you. Heather Ferris again for the record. The subject parcel is approximately 7.8 acres in size and is the site of the Carson City Dispatch Center, Fire Station 53, and Ross Gold Park. The parcel is zoned public community, and the applicant is proposing the construction of approximately 720 square foot carport adjacent to the dispatch center to provide for covered storage of the mobile command unit, which is currently stored at this location without cover. The carport will be 25 feet from the front property line along Oak Street and a minimum of 200 feet from all other property lines. Staff is recommending a condition requiring the applicant to paint the carport to blend with the dispatch center building, and those colors would be reviewed by staff prior to issuance of the building permit. I will note that the final plans for the carport may or may not include an enclosure on the west side of the carport, just for clarification. Per Municipal Code 1804180, the use may only be established or modified in the public community zoning district, subject to first obtaining a special use permit. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve a special use permit upon making all 7 findings in the affirmative. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval, subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report. We have not received any public comment regarding this project. Sheriff Furlong, Brian Elder, and Randy Rice with Public Works are here representing the project, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Heather. Does anyone have questions for staff?
Chairman,
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
Heather, the diagram shows the one side is covered. That's presumably the north side.
It would actually be the west side, I believe. It would be the 40-foot length, which is actually the west side, I
Isn't that,
believe.
the picture's not oriented to the north, is it?
There.
Okay.
North is to the
North
to the
is-
right of the screen.
All right. And so it's on the west side and.
Excuse me,
north
I'm
is
sorry,
to the
I'm
top.
sorry, to the,
Yeah.
to the top, to the top.
Okay.
I apologize. So it would be the north
We'll
side.
get the weather thing put
Yes,
in there. We'll all figure out where it is.
It would be the north side of the,
All right. And,
Yes.
and you said they may possibly cover one of the other
no,
sides?
it may or may not be enclosed on that side.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I got you. That was my only question.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? All right. Sheriff Furlong, I see you're here as the applicant.
I appreciate this. This is a necessary move for us to protect that vehicle. It's a community asset used by all of the departments for emergency operations, and weather has been challenging on that vehicle. As many of us who have RVs know that it can be a little difficult.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant?
Sheriff Furlong, I just have a question about, I'm assuming that it's going to extend the life of the vehicle, protecting taxpayer money that is put into that. Can you confirm?
That is specifically what it's about, for the record, Sheriff Furlong. This past winter has been challenging to the roof of the vehicle, and I've worked with Public Works because of that. Weather has deteriorated the roof, and Public Works has been required to reseal it over and over again. We hope that this will help extend the life of that vehicle.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, it's time for public comment. Any public comment on this topic? Any discussion from the commission? Seeing none, it's time.
Accept the conditions?
Oh, sorry. Does the applicant accept the conditions for approval? The nod from Sheriff Furlong says yes.
I move to approve agenda item LU-2022-006 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval, including in the staff report.
Any second?
I'll second.
And a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, item 6C, LU-2022-0091 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a request to amend a special use permit, SUP-19-125, to modify the approved elevations for a 51-unit condominium development on property zone multifamily apartment located in the northeast corner of East Roland Street and Oak Street. APN 009-197-04-05 and -06. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Fariskin, for the record. The project is located at the northeast corner of East Roland and Oak Streets. The project, as approved, includes the creation of 51 residential condominium units, which required approval of a tentative map and special use permit for condos. On August 28th, 2019, the Planning Commission approved a special use permit to construct the condominiums and recommended approval of the tentative subdivision map, which was later approved by the Board of Supervisors. As part of the special use permit, the Planning Commission reviewed and approved the conceptual elevations of the condos. These shown here are the approved elevations from 2019. The applicant has been working towards construction of the condos and has since revised the design of the buildings, providing for larger covered outdoor space for the upper units, which resulted in changes to the exterior elevations of the buildings. These are the proposed elevations. So while the articulation of the new elevations may be similar to those originally approved, staff is unable to determine that the elevations are substantially consistent with what was approved by the Planning Commission, resulting in the requirement to amend the special use permit. The proposed modifications to the elevations do not result in a change in the footprint of the buildings Each building will be 2 stories with 2 3-bedroom units and 1 2-bedroom unit, and 2-car garages for each unit. The Planning Commission's review this evening is limited to the proposed modifications to the elevations. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve a special use permit upon making all 7 findings of fact in the affirmative. Staff has made all 7 findings and is recommending approval subject to 4 conditions of approval included in the staff report. Again, we've not received any public comments regarding this project. Jeff Frame is here representing the project, and I'm available for questions.
Any questions for staff? So I have a question, Heather. I was trying to understand the significance. What was the trigger point to come in for this? I mean, the footprint isn't changing, the height's not changing. Is it because we put in our special conditions previously that it needs to substantially match?
Yeah.
Is
So
that-
so essentially, as part of the special use permit, elevations are reviewed. So anytime you have a special use permit for a residential construction, whether it's multifamily or a residential use in a non-residential zoning district, regardless, or condos, you're looking at the elevations. So that's part of the requirement. And one of the conditions of approval is that it's substantially the same. So the plans that they bring in to construct are substantially the same as what was approved by the Planning Commission.
Okay,
So that's the trigger for it.
okay, thanks. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, would the applicant like to come up, please?
Good evening. Sorry about that. Good evening, Jeff Frame, architect.
Have you read the conditions of approval?
Yes, we have.
And you're in agreement?
We are.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Seeing none?
One short question. Aside from the changes and the goes into this and that comes out as far as what you're doing, materially, is it basically the same exterior construction?
Yes, they are.
So it's just primarily the look.
Primarily what happened is the 2-bedroom unit on the upper floor, we created more outdoor space, which
Yep.
moved some of that street view around. That's
Okay.
what it did.
Thank you. Is there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Any public comment at this time? Any discussion from the commission? Looks like it's time for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve LU-2022-0091 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
Second? Second by Commissioner Kilgore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Okay, we did 6D already, so moving on to 6E. LU-2022-0013 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request for a special use permit to retain an existing billboard on property zoned general commercial located at 3400 Highway 50 East, APN 008-302-04. Heather.
Good evening, Commissioners. Heather Manzo for the record. So before you this evening is a request to retain an existing billboard in its present location. There are no changes proposed to the billboard at this time. Per Carson City Development Standards, Section 4.8.3, a special use permit should be issued for a billboard automatically, or one that is issued automatically expires 5 years from the date of issuance. The previous special use permit was approved on October 28th, 2015. And so currently, the applicant is requesting to retain the billboard for an additional 5 years. The Planning Commission is authorized to approve the special use permit request. And it's located, this is kind of a unique billboard. There aren't many that aren't owned by a billboard company. This one is owned by the property owner in which the billboard is located, which also contains a mobile home park. Based on a review of the development standards that we have adopted for billboards and off-premise signs, the billboard is located in a location where it would be allowed based on code, and it complies with all of the requirements in terms of size, height, lighting, and things of that nature. So I provided just a west-facing view to highlight the billboard location and its surrounding area. Condition number 8 is recommended to require the lighting to be turned off when the billboard is not actively advertising, and this is mainly to focus on finding number 6, which speaks to unnecessary impacts to surrounding properties. So with the conditions as recommended, staff is recommending approval of the request, and the applicant is here if you wish to speak with them. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question for you. In the packet or staff report rather, if you go to condition 6, and it's not really condition 6, it's just above condition 6. There's a reference to condition 9, which is actually condition 5, and also a reference to condition 9 on condition or on the number 7 right below there. That obviously referenced an old condition of approval potentially, or what went away, or what are we changing?
Yes, and I apologize for the typo in the report. Condition 9, as referenced in the staff report, is condition 8. One of them got deleted during drafting of the document, and I missed reassigning the number. So that would be condition 8 instead of 9 in the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have a quick question. It says that the last permit was approved in 2015,
That's correct.
and it's for 5 years?
Yes, so the SUP is technically expired. Per code, whether it's a new billboard or a continuation of an existing billboard, the process is the same. It's a special use permit. Since this structure is existing, the request is essentially to retain the billboard in its current location.
But it's 2 years delayed.
It is late, that's correct.
Does staff remind the applicant, or is it the applicant's responsibility to?
So based on the approved conditions, the applicant is responsible for maintaining the renewal every 5 years. In this case, excuse me, in this case, there was a recent property owner change, and the new property owner had been notified that a special use permit would be required to extend the life of this billboard. It's taken a little bit of time to get that special use permit application in, but it is before you now to conform with the code requirements.
When was that change of ownership?
I'd have to look that up. I'm sorry, I forget what year.
We could ask the applicant too.
It says 2019 in your lovely staff report here, if I read.
Ah, yeah. Commissioner Borders, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just drew a blank.
Commissioner Preston did you?
I do have a question on this. Is that you're showing that there has one ownership under this Silver State Mobile Home Park? Is the owner? My question is, are the units, are the mobile homes, are they actually on rented space?
That would be a great question for the applicant if they are here.
Mr. Chair, I remember my question.
Okay.
It's
go
called
ahead.
old timers. There's no penalty for being late?
So there is a code enforcement process that we have, which is essentially what got the applicant in for the special use permit request. In terms of penalties for code enforcement cases, I'd have to turn that over to Hope to answer that question.
Is it traditional that you start the clock for when they actually come to these meetings and get their approval over again? Because I think Commissioner Lloyd made a good point with the timing on this. They just got 2 years free.
So in terms of the applicant, they are required to have a business license during the time that there's a billboard present. They are in for a business license application that has been placed on hold pending the approval of the special use permit. In terms of the business license, we do have the ability to go back and backdate the license to make sure that we collect the fees that would have been necessary from the time the ownership changed and the special use permit expired. In terms of the conditions of approval, yes, it says to renew the SUP every 5 years. If the Planning Commission is having difficulty in making any of the findings and wishes to modify condition number 4, which outlines the expiration date, then you can make that, just noting the finding that you're having difficulty making without modifying that date.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Borders?
My favorite billboard question. If this billboard was a new construction now, is it currently meeting the code as we're proposing that it's going to become?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Borders. We did evaluate the code, and if it were coming in today, it would meet all of the requirements to potentially be approved.
Commissioner Lloyd?
So just to confirm with what you had said in your answer before, we would be able to potentially reduce the special use permit time frame for this time from 5 years to, say, 3.5 years?
You do have the ability. It's in condition number 4.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, applicant, would you please come up?
Good evening, Steve Reynolds, representing ownership in this particular item. To address a couple of things, this is one of the oldest billboard locations in the community. It was formerly a wooden, worn-out billboard, and it was replaced new, I believe, 8 years ago, which is one of the reasons why I should meet your any of the future current code requirements. The reason, and I don't understand every detail of this, but the reason that the communication regarding the re-permitting of it, the ownership suffered a death in the family of the ownership, and there was mixed workings through probate. And contact was finally made with the current ownership through contact with me, where I referred him kind of through a separate channel in order to make that contact. In my conversation with them, there'd have been no question that they would have been happy to take care of this renewal at the time it was due, if the people that were currently representing ownership had any immediate idea that it was due. I'm also can assure you that if you wanted to set the renewal date for 3.5 years from now instead of the full 5, they would have no concern with that whatsoever. And upon review of the staff recommendations and all, well, they are in complete agreement with meeting all the requirements.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions for the applicant? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I can just clarify, since the owner's representative is here, this billboard does require a business license, so should the commission approve this, if you can be sure to apply for that right away. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Any public comment on this?
Yeah, my name is Vivian Harris. I moved into that family park probably about 5 years ago, and the billboard was already there. And it wasn't until wintertime, when I was out there in my backyard, and I looked up and you see these two beaming, look like a commercial jetliner coming in your backyard, and what the heck is that? Of course, I realized it was the billboard, but I was scratching my head wondering how in the world they ever got a permit for that to begin with. But it wasn't pointed out to me when I bought the unit, and now I'm kind of stuck with it. And I know that everybody on that road, okay, see where the Lamoille is where my home is, and on that other one is affected by that. And they're kind of brilliant halogen, you put on the sunglasses type thing. And I don't know whether or not the city of Carson has restrictions on that sort of thing. But ironically, worse than that, I have gotten to know several of the people in there, and I've asked over and over, 20, maybe 30 people, even the people at Food Max, CVS, it's a very busy street. You can't take your eyes off the road to read a billboard. Not one person could tell me what was on it. 2 people said that, I think it says mattress, and I had 3 people say, what billboard? So I was like, it doesn't really serve a purpose other than we have to contend with this lighting situation, and it's clutter, I guess you could say, in that regards, and so I just had to still ask, how did this ever get a permit to begin with? So,
thank you.
This is Patty, one of the neighbors.
My name is Patty Relaford. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
And I live right on the end of where the billboard is, and I see it every day. It goes right by my back window and out to my neighbor's bedroom window, and that's only one right now. They only have the one side with the mattress firm. They used to have McDonald's, but when it's all lit up, it just lights up our whole street. I thought it was a big eyesore. The ground was beautiful before. I don't know why they put it in, because I don't remember the old one that the applicant talks about. I've been in the park for 15 years, and I don't remember the wood one. I never saw it. It was a beautiful green land, and they stopped watering it. Now it's all dead dirt. And then you have this big eyesore with the bright lights every night. And the lights go 24/7. They don't shut off.
Thank you.
And that's basically my complaint.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Would you please sign your name in?
Okay.
Thanks. Any other public comment? Seeing none, Heather, could you maybe address some of those items?
Sure, Heather Manzo for the record. So I will admit
I haven't been there at night. I did go by the site to take a look at the billboard, especially considering past conversations that the commission has had with other applicants. And I did note and took the picture for the presentation to note the type of lighting that is on the billboard. So they are downlit, they aim toward the billboard, and so they do meet code in terms of that requirement. Did you have any other questions for me that I can answer?
No, it was essentially related to that. Are they following the code that, legally allows them to have lighting? And I certainly know that billboards are a topic that if a new one ever came to this town, that would certainly be a great discussion topic. Does anyone have any other discussion on this? Commissioner Preston?
This is for the applicant. Is it a two-sided billboard? Because it shows on the picture that only one side's being utilized right now, and you'd be looking at utilizing both sides, correct?
Yes, it is a
Okay.
double-sided. Double.
I guess this question is for Heather, and it's just to, I guess, get this on the record. But we've looked at other billboards in the past that were that were more than 300 feet, like 301 feet, or away from a residentially zoned lot and homes. But this is not residentially zoned, however, there are homes.
That's correct. And so the 300-foot minimum requirement is to residentially zoned property. The mobile home park is zoned GC in its entirety. So it's a commercial zoning district.
Do we know how close the sign is to the closest home in that park?
I did take a measurement a few weeks ago. It was over 700 feet. I don't remember the exact measurement, but over 700. To residentially zoned property.
But I was asking nearest to the nearest mobile home.
Oh, no, I did not take that measurement as it's not part of the code requirements.
Right behind me.
Commissioner Borders, question?
Yeah.
Comment?
When we were talking about this before with lighting and we set some condition that said if it's, if the billboard is vacant, then the lights are off. Did we also, seemed like we had a discussion with our last billboard about time during the night, that it shut off at a certain period in the evening. I would suspect that this might be a good candidate for that also. I'm just struggling trying to remember what condition we had used on that other billboard.
I can confer with staff behind me on that, but yes, if you need to add a condition to that essence, then yes, we can add that. So it appears that a condition limiting the time of light was not something that the Planning Commission took action on. It was a discussion item, but wasn't actually part of the motion.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
At that last time we did a billboard, didn't we talk about reducing the glare from the sign itself into the residential units that were affected? I think we had something about either the glare or the color of the sign to reduce the amount of glare.
I can't recall. I do recall the timing thing. I think and it might have been something I said because I had the feeling that not a lot of people were passing by it between midnight and 5 a.m. So what's the point of lighting it? But I don't recall. Any other commissioner comments on this?
Discussion?
Sure.
Okay, so I actually volunteered over on Wabuska Street for a Pat and Burton. This was quite some years ago, but my question was going to be for the commissioners, and if any of you could, of course, it's already been raised, but if any of you know anything that's been advertised on that sign before?
It's mattresses right now.
Right.
And there's nothing on the other side.
No, and there will be, of course. So that was my, of course, how many times have you seen that sign? And I've been right on ground zero with it. And during a snowstorm, it looked pretty cool on Wabusca Street. I'll tell you that much. It was like pretty bright ball field over there. But I understand that Lemuel is ground zero for that. And that's probably, were you saying that you moved in
15 years ago,
and that was prior to the sign?
yes.
Commissioner Borders? Oh, your hands. Okay. Commissioner Preston?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's kind of throwing me off is the fact that when we've been looking at other billboards, it's actually been something that is on a separate piece of property than the other users. And where this is the property owner actually making the applying for it, that to me has a different kind of a bearing rather than this is the neighbor that is infringing on somebody else. This is his property. So I definitely would like to have that considered. He's requesting something on his property, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I somewhat agree with you. A billboard, we don't use the phrase, maybe Hope can help me, not grandfathered in, but what's our new phrase? I can't remember it.
Pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yeah, that's why I
But-
can't remember it. Pre-existing non-conforming
I
use.
don't think that applies here, just.
No,
just so
no,
you know.
but but as things come up for review, we try and bring them up to current standards, right? We have that ability.
Right.
The
And-
existence of them, it's more difficult to, I guess, pull back from my standpoint. Like tearing down someone's fence, that they've had there, even though it might not conform today, doesn't make sense to me.
I think just sort of to reshape this, and I think Heather said this, this did expire. And honestly, if we had a prohibition against billboards, which we don't, but if we did, game over. It would go away. And I'm hearing in your question sort of like, well, wait a second, this expired. Why is this before us? And I think Commissioner Borders asked the question that provides the answer. We do not have a prohibition against billboards. Billboards are allowed subject to a special use permit and subject to a series of requirements. Those requirements are met. However, it's not a ministerial permit, it's a discretionary permit. So that means even though all these standards are met, you still need to go back to your findings of fact, so the 7 findings. And there is the finding concerning, we know finding 2, we talked about it with TWA, glare, odors, things like that. And it sounds like what you all are a little bit focused on is glare and impact of lighting. And that's fair game to talk about that if that needs to be discussed in the context of the findings. But they do have a right, even though this expired, to apply for a special use permit. It meets the objective standards, so now you all have to decide if it will meet the required findings of fact.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Sina Lloyd for the record, or Commissioner Lloyd. Based on the minutes, so I'm looking at the minutes from our December meeting, and it said that there was clarification that a timer was placed on the billboard for the lights to run from dusk until midnight and could be turned off at different times. So though it wasn't in the motion, it was something that was addressed. So I'd like to ask the applicant if the lights are on a timer and if that is possible for those to be turned off at certain times.
Could the applicant please come up and go ahead and could you have him sit down and actually get to the microphone? So we get on record officially. Thank you. And state your name again, please.
Steve Reynolds, representing ownership. I have not asked that specific question, but I do not believe the ownership would have any issue with having the lights turned off at midnight. Could I bring up a couple other thoughts?
Sure.
Okay. one of the considerations, and maybe you've taken a look at it in the past, but I know of communities that regulate the ceiling for the number of lumens that can be used to illuminate billboards. And while I don't think that there, if my memory serves me, I'm not sure that we have a ceiling at this time, though I may have forgotten. But that is something that you might consider at some time if you find billboards that are too bright. Although you may have to apply it, overall at billboards rather than in specific situations. The billboard has had paid advertising on it in the recent past. At this point, I think it's mostly suffering from the ills that affected the ownership family, and they just haven't had time to sort out all the holdings and who's going to be doing what. So I know that mattress has been up there a couple of years, and I doubt if it, my guess on it is that it probably hasn't been that it's not currently being paid for.
Any questions for the applicant? Back to staff. He did mention the lumens or brightness. Have any info on that?
Yes, having worked at other agencies around the area, that is something that would be a great discussion for when we do a code update to the sign section. At this time, we don't have any restrictions on lighting for signs. And what that requires is not only the applicant having a gauge to read that, but also our code enforcement staff to, number one, be able to go out at night to take the readings, and number two, the special equipment in order to do so.
Hey, and we haven't done that thus far with any lighting?
Right,
in town?
since it's not
Okay.
a code requirement, it's not something that we've pursued.
Okay.
I'd like to discourage the commission from going in that direction. Administratively, that's really difficult. It's overtime for staff to go out at night. It's taking measurements from something that's elevated. It's tricky, and you can meet the code and still have a nuisance. So I just think it's a really tough standard to administer, and I think a timing standard's easier to explain and easier to understand. That's my 2 cents as somebody who oversees code enforcement.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion from Commissioner Lloyd?
Based on, again, our December meeting when we discussed another billboard and another citizen and community member who felt that billboard was a nuisance, I would potentially propose that we maybe follow what we did at that point where Chairperson Borders moved to approve it for a year. And though it's not written in the motion, I believe it was so that this sign company could work with that person to ensure that timing of the lights and everything met some level of expectation for that finding, or to be able to make the findings, and then we can re-review and ensure that they have actually worked with the members in that park.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Agreement, disagreement? I'm prone to not bring things back every year unless it's a big issue that I am for adding in the requirement. So that's the lighting requirement of off at midnight till dusk or dawn or whatever we come up with, 6 a.m.
Well,
Commissioner Kilgore?
Yes, just
Yes.
real quick with discussion.
Okay.
I've got to say, I left being the outlier here apparently again, but I just can't believe this was approved in the first place. This is Northern Nevada, and I guess that, putting billboards up on Main Street, down Carson Street, down Highway 50 was acceptable, especially when there was residents already living there at the time, within as close as they are. I'm not exactly sure of that distance, but it's incredible because, like I said, I've been a few blocks away, and it's like you're in a snow globe there. It's brighter than you can imagine. And so as far as being detrimental to the peaceful enjoyment of those residents, there's absolutely no way that I would have approved this in the first place, in which case I'll be the outlier again, I suppose. Thank you for your time.
Okay. We have another comment?
Yeah, Commissioner Perry. Well, the interesting thing about this one is that this is one parcel, and I'm assuming that all the people that live within that parcel rent from the owner. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
So the owner of this parcel has said, I want to renew this billboard. Now, the finding here, number 2, basically that we had to do is this project, will it not be detrimental to the use, peaceful enjoyment, economic value, or development of surrounding properties? Okay, so I would, I guess I don't see anybody here from a surrounding property. I see people here who live on this property, but this is the owner's property. And I understand that. But when I see this here, it's like, okay, well, what is it doing to the surrounding properties? I mean, it kind of does get back to the non-conforming use question to some extent, because you have a billboard use here, and you also have residential use on the same property. I just wanted to bring that up because I think it's relevant in this, because it is one property. And the owner has said, will you allow me to continue with this use? And yet there are residences that rent on this property. So I don't want to say confused, but it's a little bit perplexing, because there's 2 completely different uses on this property.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Perry. Looks like Commissioner Borders.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Borders, as far as the conditions of approval are concerned, I would have to agree with Commissioner Lloyd, and I would suggest that we amend condition number 4 to say October 28th, 2025, which is 5 years from the last time it was approved. And what that occurs, that doesn't give you the 1-year time frame, but it gives us a 2.5-year time frame, just to see if, when we do code changes and things like that, if something changes in that effect. And I'd also like to see condition number 8 changed to agree to say that when the lights are off, when paid advertising is not present in between the hours of midnight and dusk. No, midnight and dusk.
To
clarify,
They're off.
do you mean midnight and dawn?
No. Why are you going to run the lights all during the day? The lights will be off from midnight until the sun goes down. Then they can come
Okay.
on again.
Fair enough, I understand.
Okay,
Midnight to dusk.
I like it. I agree with Commissioner Borders' amendments. How about the rest? Discussion? Hands are up, but maybe I just didn't take them down. Commissioner Perry? Still?
So this would, of course, include that they come up to date with their licensing on the billboard as well?
Yes.
Well,
That'll be
that's a given.
a building, or that'll be your department enforcing that. Any final discussion? Time for a motion?
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Borders.
I'll make my motion if it's acceptable to the applicant.
Yes, we accept the changes to the
Okay.
requirement.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve LU 2022-0013 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval in the staff report with the following 2 amendments. Condition number 4, the permit shall expire on October 28, 2025, and on condition number 8, lights shall be turned off when paid advertising is not present and between the hours of midnight and dusk.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes. Okay, item number 7, staff reports. Hope.
Okay, Heather Ferris hooked me up with the data, so now I don't have to scurry around. So at your meeting of April 27th, you're going to have the abandonment of a right-of-way down in the southern portion of the city. 3 special use permits. One's for an accessory dwelling on Rand. One is for an in-home childcare facility with 12 children on Pine Brook. And one's a special use permit for a hoop house over at Pioneer High School. And then you also have a multifamily project at the intersection of Roop and Northridge. So it's the east side of Roop, both sides of Northridge. I think it's either 120 or 140 units. Same developer who did the affordable housing over on Hot Springs. So that will be an interesting one. And yeah, so that's the meeting of April. We still need to get back to Title 18. I'm trying to get through the neighborhood improvement districts right now. Once I get those behind me, hopefully I'll have bandwidth to get back to Title 18 so we can finish the remaining chapters. And then we have to do our master plan zoning text amendments or zoning map amendments. So we have plenty of work for you to do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. One other thing for staff, now that we've sort of set precedent on billboards, you obviously take that to the next billboard that comes in? Or do we need to remember that?
So I think that's what Heather did with this billboard, is a lot of the conditions were taken from the one that you guys heard in December. So we'll just continue to reference back to those as we move forward.
Just like government, we'll just keep adding things on till eventually it's too hard to comply.
I think also on that, this one, you had a residential use right there. You're not always going to have that. So you're not always going to have this situation, which is why it's a discretionary review. So, I mean, if there are things that you all believe should be standard conditions of approval, regardless of the location and the surroundings, that's something we should really codify, like Heather had mentioned. But there are certain things that are really specific to the site. And that's why the staff doesn't have the authority to approve it, because it's discretionary. So I think you did have some concerns about lighting tonight, and you addressed those concerns. I'm not sure the next one will have those same concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. Any commissioner reports or comments at this time? Okay.
Hold on.
Oh,
You're moving too fast. No, actually, more just questions. So in my travels around looking at the various items here, I noticed that many of the things that we approved in the last probably 18 months as far as residential development are actually under construction. In fact, there's a lot, it seems like, that are out there. And I guess it would be, I guess my question is has anybody from planning and development given a report to any groups that you could share with us at one of the meetings, just to show what actually is being constructed? How many actual units you're expecting to see this year? Because it seems like it just all of a sudden took off and exploded.
Right. I was doing a monthly report. I've decided to change that to a quarterly report. And actually, I was out on Friday taking pictures of non-residential properties that are under construction. So I'm happy at the April meeting, maybe do a presentation to this group of active construction sites so that you can kind of see the fruits of your labor.
That would be great, because I know many of us get questions from people of, affordable housing, what's being built, that kind of thing. So I think that would be very helpful, yeah. If the other commissioners are okay with that.
yes, I would like that too. Any other commissioner comments? You gotta be quick and throw your hands up fast. Okay, moving on to item 8, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Planning Commission, including any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. Mr. French.
Thank you. Mr. French, Carson City, Nevada. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. One of my concerns tonight was that I think the prior deal about the billboard could have been perhaps, it sounds pretty commendable type ownership now, and they might be able to listen to their tenants and get that resolved. But there should be perhaps some consideration in the future as to where some of those billboards go. But my thing is, my statement now is to ask, what is your statement when you say affordable housing actually mean? Yeah, I don't think it was determined at any of the meetings I've been at. No set amount was considered or stated. So affordable housing could be anything at this point. And most of my friends that are looking at what they hoped would be affordable housing can't afford it. And they're working. And those that are on special housing help from state and such are finding that places will take them, but in one case specifically, they're being crowded out by the chance to get more rent from someone else. So they're being pressured or put into a uncomfortable situation so that they will get out, but they're state funded or they have some money from other sources other than a job at this time. But affordable housing, unless you've sort of defined it and you hold people to say that the units that they're building under that title, what does that mean? So thank you very much. That's a quandary for me, and perhaps it's something I missed, but I hadn't really heard it quantified. So I appreciate any help I can get on that. So I know you can't comment, which is a shame. I'd like to have more interaction that way. And I forgot to ask my go-to, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Any other final comments from the commissioners? Seeing none, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, well, any nays? Motion passes.